Good morning. It is Wednesday, September 1st. Welcome to a new month, and thank you for waking up with Ray G. This is Wake Up with Ray G, presented by Best TV, and I am joined, as always, by the producer, my co-host, partner in crime, Jordan Richards. Jay, I'm going to be real quick. How are you this morning? We got a lot to talk about, and we got a real special guest, the first guest ever that we've had on the show. The COO of FTN Network. He knows his stuff. FTN Fantasy, go over there, follow all of his stuff at Eliot Crist on Twitter. We're going to bring EC in a minute. But Jay, real quick, because the people like to know how you're doing this morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. I was not getting a lot of sleep. You know, first guest, it's the COO, the big honcho.
COO.
So I had to be on my shit today. You know, I had to make sure everything was right, ready to go. Had to get him his show sheet. So I hope it's good enough. I hope we're there, but I know the people are waiting, so I'm not going to keep them waiting any longer. Ray, do your thing. We know what we're here to talk about. So
okay. So yesterday, we saw that the New England Patriots released Cam Newton. And that solidifies Mac Jones, first-round pick out of Alabama, as the starting quarterback. And I did not say much on there. Love and respect to Cam Newton. Hope he gets a shot elsewhere. It's the kid's time. And as I'm sitting back on Twitter, listening to sports talk radio and hearing the commentary around the situation, I reserved a lot of those thoughts because it's easier for me to just verbally articulate what I'm feeling opposed to being limited to 240 characters and trying to write this long narrative. So let's talk about Mac Jones for a minute. Let's just talk about this entire New England Patriots situation. So heading in to the 2020 NFL season, before that, Tom Brady, longtime New England Patriot. I think for a long time, none of us ever really envisioned a world in which Tom Brady would not be a New England Patriot. I don't think... Even though we started hearing rumblings of contention between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, it was just hard to picture a world in which Tom Brady did not retire at Patriot. They just figure it out and continue to press forward. Well, reality slapped Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and Patriots Nation in the face when he's like, I'm done. I'm out. Rob Gronkowski was out. Tom Brady was out. He ends up going to Tampa Bay. So New England was put in this position where they had no quarterback. And I remember, the spring of 2020, the talk was Jarrett Stidham was the guy. They believed in Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham was going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden, when they realized that he was garbage because he stunk at Auburn and he was terrible at Baylor, they find Cam Newton off the street. They bring him in to be their starting quarterback. They knew they could not roll with Stidham. But understand that Cam was not a priority for New England. Cam was last resort for New England at that time. And during the 2020 preseason, the minicamp OTAs, which were pretty much eliminated, no rookie minicamp, Cam had no time to really practice with New England. I mean, they literally got him off the street, gave him the playbook, and they rolled him out there as the starter. So Cam had, some solid weeks early in the season, but I was looking at some stats last year. I think he had 8 games where he was over or under 200 passing yards. And then a couple of games where he didn't even hit 150. He had a couple of good games, but Cam Newton really didn't do anything to solidify himself as the starter. And I'm watching everybody on Twitter talk about Cam didn't get a fair shake. Boston sports media, they never wanted Cam Newton to be the guy. I ask you, and I thought to myself, and Jay, we talked about this, what did Cam Newton really do to earn and deserve the starting role in New England, okay? What did he do in 2020 throughout the offseason, through training camp, to earn the right to just have that job? And if we're keeping it real and being honest, I'd say he didn't do much. And you can make all these excuses as to why. I know he got COVID, and after COVID, he was not the same player. But that's the world. That's the world in which we live in. That's the NFL landscape. He didn't sign some multi-year deal and was usurped by Mac Jones, right? So Cam subpar season for whatever reason, variety of reasons. So what does New England do? And it shouldn't have been a shock to anybody, but they draft a quarterback. They have to find a quarterback of the future. And while most people on Twitter and social media sit here and say, well, Cam didn't play that bad in the preseason. He didn't play that bad. He also didn't separate himself from the rookie. Cam had every opportunity this preseason, from the preseason games to the practices, and all we heard from day one is, yo, Mac Jones looks good. He's had a good practice. We know they drafted him 15th overall in the NFL draft. He had good practices. He's performing well in the preseason. I believe Pro Football Focus, and granted, this is preseason, said that he scored the highest rating ever in the preseason for a rookie quarterback, better than Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, everybody in preseason. And I get it, it's just preseason. I think he was second in passer rating, passer efficiency in the entire NFL this past preseason, with 0 turnover-worthy plays. Didn't throw any interceptions, and none of his passes, according to PFF, were interceptable danger throws. So Mac Jones did everything possible during this offseason to show New England that they should have confidence in him. And let's just talk about Mac Jones, right? Because I truly think if Mac Jones had a six-pack, tattoos on his arm, and a long blonde mullet, we'd be gushing over the fact that this kid is one of the best quarterback prospects that we've seen. Because statistically, in NCAA history, he beat Colt McCoy's completion percentage record, and I think he tied or was second to Joe Burrow in QBR or passer rating in NCAA history. He shattered every Alabama passing record for an individual season. He holds the most 300-yard passing games in Alabama history. I think he's got like 3 of the top 5 passer games in Alabama history. We thought that 5-star freshman Bryce Young was going to come in and take that job from Mac Jones by week 3 of the college football season. And all Mac Jones has done from the college football season, having one of the best college football seasons from a quarterback in NCAA history, right up there with Joe Burrow, playing an all-SEC schedule with no training camp. All he did was ace every single part of a test, broken down every barrier, speed bump, and roadblock placed before him during the season. But people still didn't buy in. No way he's going to be a first-round pick. There's no way Mac is going to be a first-round pick. Goes to the Senior Bowl, shreds the Senior Bowl. I do not care what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch say. I think they were sold on Mac Jones at number 3 overall before public pressure and the backlash of passing on to Justin Fields or Trey Lance came into the equation and made them take a second look at Trey Lance. I think they were sold on the kid. I think they were. If Mac Jones had a different body type, if he had any kind of swagger, if his name wasn't Mac Jones, I think more people would be in on this individual. So while we sit here and say, well, Cam didn't play that bad, he also didn't separate himself from the first-round pick. And if you are the incumbent starter who really didn't do shit the season before, who really didn't play up to what we believe or we think about when we think about Cam Newton, Auburn, 2015, Super Bowl contender, NFL MVP. The reality is, man, Father Time catches up to every last one of us. And whether it's Father Time, whether it's injuries, or the simple fact that Josh McDaniels was never going to design 2 offenses. It was not going to be the Cam package and the Mac Jones package. They have limited amount of practice time, and they were never going to install 2 different offenses because Mac Jones is not going to run the zone read the way that Cam Newton utilizes his legs to be a weapon for the NFL. So while we sit here and talk about all the reasons why Cam got screwed, the reality is he didn't beat out the kid. He was unvaccinated, which puts the team and players at risk for flat out forfeiting games. Look, man, it was inevitable. I love Cam Newton, one of the most dynamic, unique players of his generation. But to sit here and say that Mac didn't earn and deserve a chance to start as the first-round pick after playing the type of preseason that he had, everybody can miss me with that shit. It has nothing to do with Boston sports media. It has nothing to do with Cam Newton not being maybe a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. It has everything to do with the fact that this first-round pick came in, played his ass off, worked his tail off from the college season throughout the pre-draft process, has earned the respect of his team, his coaches, and the people around that organization. It has everything to do with the kid. And I, for one, give a ton of credit to Bill Belichick for cutting Cam, for releasing Cam. And we don't know what happened behind the scenes, if Cam asked for a release or if Bill came to Cam and said, you know what, man, you're a starting quarterback. We are not going to have you hold the clipboard. We're not going to do that to you. We're going to let you go now so you can figure out what your next move is and have an opportunity to find work. I respect Bill. I respect that entire situation for doing that, because I couldn't see a world in which Cam Newton was holding the clipboard for Mac Jones. So you cut the guy, you let him have an opportunity to figure out what move he wants to make. And I do think we see Cam Newton start an NFL game this year, whether that be later in the season or if he gets work early on. But Cam, fantastic player, fantastic talent. But this was about the kid, his intestinal fortitude, his perseverance, his work ethic. And just for those of you out here who are like, Ray's just is the biggest Mac. Mac Jones was my QB4 in the 2021 NFL draft. It's not that I love Mac Jones. It's I hate the narrative around, oh, because he looks like this. Oh, he just had all those weapons at Alabama. He's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback who earned the right to start. And that's where I'm at with Cam Newton. Now we bring in our guest, Eliot Crist. EC, talk to me, baby.
Yeah, I would say the only thing I disagree with there was when you talked about Mac Jones' swag factor, and if he had a blonde mullet, we'd like him more. Because I don't know if I'm going to agree that part's swaggy. But the rest, you're 100% right. Like, the entire offseason was about setting up for a rookie quarterback, right? Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. They were giving veterans big contracts. And whenever teams give veterans big contracts, it says that they think they're going to have a quarterback on a rookie contract. So Mac Jones came in, he played well, he should start. Like that, it's kind of, I don't really buy into this narrative of quarterbacks should sit back and watch and then that's how they get better. And we're going to use examples of Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes as if Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have been good if they played early on. I get better when I do things, not when I watch them. You know what I mean? Like that's just, Mac Jones came in, he proved that he was ready to go and they want to build around him. And to your point, I would bet that Cam Newton asked to be released. Because when you're the backup for a rookie quarterback, the only way you're going to play is if he gets hurt, right? I would love to go see him go to Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger, probably in his last year with elbow issues, if he goes down, could legit do something with that team and has an opportunity to compete next year. But I couldn't echo your sentiment more that Mac Jones should be the starter. I'm glad the Patriots pulled that trigger, and I wish that more teams in the NFL had the courage to do that. I'm looking at you, San Francisco and Chicago.
Yeah, and I think it was inevitable, man. It was an inevitable move, and I think it's good. You didn't want the aura of Cam Newton over Mac Jones' shoulder, and I think it wouldn't have done Cam a service. It's a disservice to Cam that for him to go out there and play, and if he does throw a couple of interceptions or they do lose a game or he does have a poor performance, he's looking over his shoulder like, damn, I know they got a first-round pick behind me, like, I think it's best for both parties that Cam have an opportunity to find work. And I asked this question to Jordan yesterday. Do you still think he's a top 32 quarterback? Like, would you rather have Cam Newton or Teddy Bridgewater? Cam Newton or Sam Darnold? Is he still Cam Newton or Jared Goff? Do you believe that he's still a top 32 quarterback in the NFL, or is he a backup? I still think he's a top 32 quarterback. I'm not talking dynasty. I'm just talking for this season. I still think he's one of the best 32 quarterbacks on the face of the planet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Honestly, injuries have affected him so much, right? Ever since that MVP season and we've seen healthy Cam, he plays a couple games, he gets banged up, and it really impacts him. I mean, last year he threw for over 200 yards just 5 times on the season. And it took till week 17 to throw double-digit touchdowns. He was not good last year. Do I think he's a top 32 quarterback? I'd probably prefer him to Jared Goff. Teddy Bridgewater, to me, is more like the floor as opposed to Cam Newton's ceiling, which is why I think he won the job in Denver to begin with, because Vic Fangio is like an older coach. This is his last shot. Thinks he can win everywhere else, while Drew Lock is kind of the upside guy. Sam Darnold is such an unknown for me. And I know that's probably a cop-out, but anyone who's ever played under Adam Gase, the second they don't play under Adam Gase, it takes off to a whole nother level. So I'm really interested to see how he plays with new coaching. So I would rather have Sam Darnold, but He's probably in that like 28 to 35 range right now.
And see, Eliot, this is the reason why, and I'm just talking fantasy in general right now. I saw a lot of people talking about Cam Newton as a value. Like, draft Cam Newton in redraft leagues. In Dynasty, he's a value. It was inevitable, dude. Like, I don't know why people sat back, and if you know the connection between Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, that's why they have so many damn Alabama players on that roster. When they drafted him at number 15, it was inevitable. Like, Cam was literally on a one-year deal. Like, let's just get him in. We can't roll with who we have. The moment that happened, man, like, it was inevitable. I never understood the enthusiasm, and this is where I just think it's okay to be a fan of Cam Newton and say he shouldn't start. That doesn't mean you're a Cam hater. It means I'm a realist. They drafted this kid. He went undefeated. Helped Devonta Smith win the Heisman Trophy, first damn wide receiver to do it since Desmond Howard. Shattered records in college, was the top 15 pick. What am I missing here? Why was Cam ever a value? It was as inevitable as Thanos getting all the Infinity Stones, and people were still pushing this propaganda laced in fandom. Like, that's not what this is about, dude. I loved Jalen Reagor pre-draft. Loved him. Had him wide receiver 2 after Jerry Jeudy. Do you think there's anywhere on God's green earth I would say you need to draft Jalen Reagor over T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault? No. And I know him personally. But this isn't about fandom, man. Like, if it is not, if you like Mac, if you think this was the right move, you hate Cam Newton, you're a Cam Newton hater. No, I'm a hater of quarterbacks that barely can get 200 passing yards in a season when I'm playing fantasy football or I'm putting bets in for the wide receivers that quarterback plays for. That's what I'm not a fan of. And Cam had his time in the sun, one of the greatest college quarterbacks to ever play the game, one of the most unique weapons in NFL history. But right now, at 32 years old, going on 33, he is not the same guy that we fell in love with and won that MVP award in 2015. And right now, the kid played better in preseason, so he deserves to start. That's where I am with it. I'm done with it. That's what I thought. I need no victory lap because all I ever said from the beginning, I never said Mac Jones was going to be an MVP. I never said he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. All I've said from day one is he's going to be a first-round pick and he's going to be a quality starter in the NFL, and I still stand by that pre-draft analysis. But we have got to get into the betting portion of the show. This is why we brought you here, EC. Is there anything else you want to say about Cam Mac Jones? Are you ready to get into the meat of the show?
Let's get into the show.
Hey, Jay Rich, man, this is going to be the first time we do we're going to do the breakfast and bets.
Triple box.
You want to do the breakfast and bets overlay?
Yeah, show it to the people.
All right, since we haven't done it, let's go breakfast and bets. Let's do it. First time. Boom.
Wake up. This is breakfast and bets.
Prepare to do breakfast.
Hey, man, I like that bacon look up there. Appreciate you, Jay Rich, for that. So we're going to start off with the Super Bowl odds. Who is going to win the Super Bowl this year? And, Jay, I don't know where you pulled these from, but anyway, the Chiefs are favored, plus 500. Bucks, Bills, Packers, Ravens, 49ers, Rams, Browns, Seahawks, and the Chargers. Interesting. When I'm looking at these prices for the Super Bowl odds, I mean, I love the Browns. I think they're going to be really good. I think defensively, from an offensive standpoint, I think they're going to be efficient, solid on the ground. Baker hopefully takes another step forward. He looked good in that preseason game versus Atlanta. And then, of course, at the top, you've got the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. I think a lot of people, the odds makers have the Bucs as the odds-on favorite out of the NFC. But Eliot, when you see these prices, when you see these lines, I know you've put some stuff in. So where are you at with Super Bowl? Who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Or what pick do you like price-wise to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I'm with you on the Browns being an incredibly loaded roster. I think they're priced right at plus 1,600. I kind of wish they were closer to plus 2,000. A long shot I have is the Chargers. I got them at 40-1. They're now down to 30-1. Justin Herbert last year was actually top 5 in a stat called PAA, which is points added by the quarterback, which is basically a value of how good that quarterback was and how much they impacted winning. the other quarterbacks that were in the top 5 all won 10 or more games. Like, he was incredible last year, and if he can build off that with the additions on the offensive line, right, getting Slater, they get Joey Bosa and Derwin James back. I think that Chargers roster is loaded, and not having Anthony Lynn and his inability to do math, I think will really help that team. The top 2 teams on the board should be the top 2 teams on the board, right? Like, the Chiefs had a major issue last year, the Achilles heel that got worse as the playoffs went on in the offensive line. And the NFL let them add Joe Thuney. They got the kid Humphrey from Oklahoma. They traded for the tackle from the Ravens. They're loaded, and the Bucks, they're the first Super Bowl champ to bring every single person back in forever. And Joe Tyron, the kid out of Washington, looks like a beast right now for more pass rush help. I think those 2 teams should absolutely be favored. I'm fading the Packers. I think they're too top heavy. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, David Bakhtiari. Aaron Jones, Jair Alexander, Evans, the guard. Like, after that, the roster falls off pretty quickly. The Ravens have already been a little banged up.
Yeah.
The 49ers, the Rams are interesting because we'll see just how much they can accelerate with a top-end quarterback performance. But the Chargers are my favorite long shot. Right now, my pick would be the Chiefs, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's a rematch from last year, man. The Chiefs and Bucs are the 2 best teams in football.
So let me ask you this, because a lot of people ask me, Ray, well, how much do you put on? Like, how much do you bet? How much do you bet? And I know for me, we're not professional bettors. We're learning along with the people, man. That's why I'm so glad to be venturing into this avenue of sports. But how do you figure out? So I'm hearing, units and bet. Like, how do you figure out? Because it's hard for me to say, all right, well, I mean, for me, oh yeah, people look like I put $100 on Mac Jones to win NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, and people are like, oh, that's so much money to waste. But I mean, it's relative to your entire bankroll size. So can you just explain how you even figure out, or what's a good way to communicate to the audience, or for them to hear, I put a unit on Tom Brady to win NFL MVP. What does that mean? And just sort of give us the lay of the land of what we should be doing. So I guess allocate funds before we even start putting money in.
Yeah, so I mean, I think in terms of a bankroll, right? Like, you have to ask yourself, am I doing this for entertainment? Am I doing this because I'm trying to make money? Am I trying to make money quickly, which is a great way to lose money? Or am I willing to understand that this is a grind and build up long term? So a unit, each person's unit is their own. I understand that sounds funny, but not everyone's unit is the same. My unit is $100, right? That's my standard bet is $100. I typically bet between 1 to 5 units, right? So if I bet 5 units, it's $500. If it's like a long shot bet, and let's say I bet Sonny Michel plus 200,000 to lead the league in rushing touchdowns. I'm not going to put $100 on that, but I'm going to put $10 on it to win 2,000. And it's like a implied probability where I think it's probably closer to 2%, but they're telling me it's 0.5%. So I actually have 1.5% expected value. That's probably a little too complicated. We'll get to that in a second. But essentially, what you want to do is you want to take what your bankroll is. And bankroll is not necessarily how much money you have in your account, right? Or your accounts spread across different sports books. It's how much money are you willing to put into betting this year overall. So typically you want to take your unit should be 1 to 2% of that. So if you're willing to put $5,000 into betting, your unit should be between $50 and $100, because you don't want to go on a cold streak, right? And let's say this week you just got crushed and you're betting $300 a game and you went 0-5 and now you're down $1,500 and your entire bankroll is $3,500, right? So you want to make sure you're practicing money management, and there are different ways to do it. My bankroll originally started around $10,000. It's much larger now, but instead of increasing my unit size, what I've done is I've actually just increased my volume, because I try to take advantage of every little mistake that I think is in the market and try to build up as much value long term as possible. Or you can go the opposite direction and kind of keep the same strategy of, I'm going to continue to just pick the few plays that I'm really confident in. And now that I've increased my bankroll by, say, 50%, and now it's went from 5,000 to 10,000. Now I want to do $200 a bet instead of $100 a bet. But there's no such this whole unit shaming thing that people do, like, oh, your bet was only $100. Like, bro, that's a lot of money to people. Like, everyone, you want to bet within
that's a thing? People shame over that? What?
Have you seen Twitter, man? People shame over literally everything.
Yeah.
You literally just talked about calling yourself a Cam Newton hater because you said he threw for under 200 yards. We've lost the ability to have any type of discourse on social media and have any conversations. Everything's in the extreme, right? Like, so let's say, Eliot, $5,000. Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, I have some pictures of apes to buy, right? Like JPEGs of apes. But like, you can start at $5. The key is like, I'm willing to build up over time, right? Because the biggest mistake people make is they say, okay, I got $100 to bet, right? I want to be able to bet $100 a game. So I'm going to take 5 parlays. I'm going to put $20 a piece on them, and I'm going to try to have each one win $1,000. You're talking about 100 to 1 odds, which means that the odds calculator on FTN bets is really helpful for this. You can literally type in the odds, and they will tell you what the probability is. You're literally talking about a 1% outcome. So you're trying to get rich on 1% outcomes and hit them 1 out of every 5 times. That's like, just from a math perspective, once you say it out loud, it's crazy. And there's a reason why every time you watch TV, right, and a DraftKings ad comes on, or all their tweets are, this guy won X on a parlay, and they're all celebrating him. Why do you think that is?
Because
they want you to do that.
Yeah, they want you to do it. Yeah,
so, sports books don't make more than 6% return on any individual sport, right? They make 13% on parlays.
Wow.
They're literally begging you to do it. The thing is, the best way to do this kind of thing is like, you have to have patience. You have to grind it out. You have to understand that each bet is its own outcome, and we're trying to long-term build money. But we live in a get-rich-quick scheme, right? Like, let's hop on OnlyFans and see if we can make $1 million. Like, that's not how we want to approach betting, because that's the quickest way to lose your bankroll and get frustrated. It's like, all right, I'm building up I call it a portfolio of bets every single week or every single offseason or every single draft. And my goal is to say, I want as many bets where I think there's positive expected value, which means that I think the probability I'm getting is greater than the probability that they're offering. So let's just say your Mac Jones bet, for example, right? Let's say, I think you got it 15 to 1.
Yeah, 15 to 1.
So 15 to 1. So instead, we're talking about like a 7.5% probability. You probably are like, yo, if he starts, he probably wins that award, 15, 20% of the time? That's an amazing implied probability. Even if Mac Jones doesn't win, we've already seen him drop to as low as 3 to 1 on Win Sportsbook. You now have a positive expected value bet. Now, you don't need to win the Mac Jones bet every time. You need to win the Mac Jones bet 1 out of every 14 times in order to make money, right? That's what a 15 to 1 bet is. But people don't think that way. They think, oh, Eliot likes the Chargers at 40 to 1. Oh, the Chargers didn't win the Super Bowl. Eliot sucks at sports betting. No. And we've already seen it drop to 30 to 1. And that's a great way to understand whether or not your value is there. Is like, are lines consistently moving in your favor? So
interesting.
There's a lot of information there. I'm happy to break down each individual thing, but I hope like some of the mindset, some of the unit, understand that it's a long-term growth. You know, when people say, what should I do to start? I like to suggest $20 a game, because $5 you don't necessarily care that much about. $20 you can end up getting $200-$300 in a weekend. There's an opportunity to grow that bankroll in a way where you actually see the growth. You have some fun sweats on the game. You know, everyone talks about their fans of teams. I promise you, you're going to care about the team you bet on more than your favorite team pretty quickly. It's a really fun way to grow your sports fandom as well. And honestly, one of the best things that betting did for me is it taught me to think outside the box. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to listen to Skip Bayless and Colin Cowherd talk nonsense. I want to I want to really learn to understand the game. I want to understand what I'm watching, because then I can find different advantages in betting.
So that's interesting you say that. So I'm just, as I'm listening to you, you know how in fantasy football, Dynasty in particular, like, you're always paying attention to the waiver wire, what guys gotten dropped, and you're always active, like whether that's in league trade negotiations, the waiver wire. Is that the same way with betting? Are you always looking at different books to see where like, I knew you were all over Gus Edwards. I saw you talk about Gus Edwards was, his over-under rushing yard total was like 600. And then when it closed down after J.K. Dobbins got hurt, he opens back up at 1,000. Like, are you, because I always see you dropping stuff. You're like, yo, this may be, look, I don't know what happened here, but you want to check this out. This is free money. Or these are really, or Chris Meaney. When we talked about Chris Meaney's Shohei Ohtani bet. What was it, Jordan? What did Meaney get him for MVP for? Something ridiculous?
I believe it was 50 to 1.
50 to 1. Like, are you always just searching different lines while paying attention simultaneously to the NFL, to the NBA, to like what's going on? Like, yo, this dude's legit. Let me see what's going on. Like, is it a constant thing? Like, just like we do in fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% is. And I like to say that you want to predict the news, not react to the news.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when you are reacting the same times as everybody else, reacting in the moment is almost always overreacting, right? Like people are like, Gus Edwards, RB12. Like, let's calm down, guys. But injury situations, like you literally have sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to react before the books react. So Gus Edwards being lined at 600 yards, that's implied that he's the backup, right? Now that he's the starter, I know that line's going to move crazy, so I'm going to hammer that. And then I can have the opportunity to middle it as well, which middle means that I could then have under 1,000, over 600. And now I have a 400-yard gap, which is a massive gap to potentially, that's a great way to get 20 to 1, right? Because you have both sides of the bet. So I end up having 5 units on his over 600 and 2 units on his under 1,000. I could win up to 7. So like there's a lot of like possibilities like that. But I'm always looking probably an hour a day, 2 hours a day. Less now because a lot of lines have settled, but as markets open up, I'm checking every single sports book and I'm comparing all the lines and I'm comparing what FTN's projections are to the lines and trying to find as many values as possible. And then when there's anomalies in books, so I'll give you an example. Joe Mixon, all of his rushing props this year were like between 975 and 1,025. And then Fox Bet drops him at 1,165 yards. That's a bad line. Like the entire market has dictated that it's 1,000. Our projections have him at as 1,000. And this is 200 yards greater than that. There's a lot of opportunity there. And then if I want, I can try to middle it, take the over 975. Now I have a 180-yard gap, which is right where his median projection is. And let's say I put $100 in each side. So I risk 110 on each side. So the most I can lose is $10 and the best I can win is $200. Now I have my 20 to 1 bet that actually has a chance to hit as opposed to the parlay. But what a lot of people will tell you is, I don't like betting futures. I don't want my money tied up that long. What am I going to just do? Double it. If you ever talk to a financial advisor, right, and they said that you could double your money in 4 months, they would be like, do that.
Yeah. Right.
So like and I understand, listen, you're not guaranteed to double anything, but it's like, how many times can I get great value on stuff? For example, I'm just going to rattle off a couple. I have Lamar Jackson at over 3,000 passing yards. That line was disrespectful. It's now 3,500. I have Patrick Mahomes at over 4,700 passing yards. It's now 5,100. I have Dak Prescott over 4,400 passing yards. It's now 4,800. I have Josh Allen over 4,000 passing yards. It's now 4,600. I have Matthew Stafford over 4,300 passing yards. It's now 4,700. These are things where like people aren't paying attention in May and June. Like I got Tim Tebow under 12.5 yards this football season. He was a 33-year-old former MLB pitcher that stunk at quarterback, and people were like, well, he's a good athlete. Man, he ran 4.7 11 years ago. My man like looks like he's pulling a truck and can't block or catch.
Yeah.
And you're telling me I get even money on whether or not this man makes the team? Yeah, I put that bet in at 4:30 in the morning because I'm a crazy person who has the weirdest sleeping schedule. But like, okay, cool. And then it immediately jumped to like minus 167. Still an amazing value. But like most people aren't looking for that. Right? So like you being willing to put in time or frankly, sub to FTN bets, follow me on Twitter. I write up a lot of stuff for free anyway. Like I'm willing to put that work in for you. And then $20 here, $20 there. And then season ends, and it's like Christmas comes in December and January because you get that big payday at the end of the season.
Well, it's a lot like the market, Eliot, because I do some day trading, some swing trading, and option plays are like the immediate smash. It's like if you do an option with an expiration this Friday or next Friday, like you have the potential to really just cash out right away. But you also have the same thing could go against you and you can lose money right away. Like the smarter play sometimes is to extend your options out a little bit further. Wait 2 or 3 months for that put credit spread to work out. Wait a couple of years for just buying the underlying stock and waiting for that to appreciate and accumulate value. It's buy the rumor, sell the news. You talked about reacting to injuries, reacting to things, and you're already late. It's about being ahead of the game. And I think for me, that's one of the things, like, I just think to rookie season, right? Rookie draft season, and seeing like Kyle Pitts, I think his over-under, wasn't it like 700 yards, something low. It's much higher now than it was at that time. So I think following people like you being tapped in early is really good. And I do think that more people who are introduced to sports betting, and with the NFL sort of embracing this now, the NFL is embracing this sector of gaming. For everybody out there listening who's thinking about, listen, I don't have no Eliot bankroll. I ain't got over $10,000 to do it, so I may need to adjust my unit size just a tad bit. But I am okay with getting in on some of these lines early. And like you said, if I've got a 20% chance of hitting on that Mac Jones bet, then I'm good with it, man. Like even if it doesn't pan out, the reality of the situation is, and I'm just being real, by the time that's announced in February or January, February, I'm not even thinking about that $100. Like I've made that back. It's gone. I'm not worried about it. So I think, that sort of advice that you just gave everybody and staying tapped into people who are doing the work for you. That's why most people tune into shows, right? Do the work for me. Tell me who to pick up off of waiver wire. Tell me who to draft. Tell me how to rank these guys. Like you're doing the same thing, but you're trying to help make people money. So we appreciate it, man. We appreciate it. But we got to get into some more stuff in the show. We talked about Super Bowl odds. Let's just talk about NFL MVP. NFL MVP. You got Mahomes sitting at the top, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson. And this is today, so I don't know what you got it for, Elliot. I'm sure your numbers look a lot different. Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert. And you see no other position players here because it's a quarterback award. That's just what it is. And I'll just tell you, for me, I put half a unit, and I feel real good. Like I almost want to redo it and add another half a unit to it. But I got Tom Brady at plus 1,400 to win NFL MVP. I didn't realize how good he was last year. I think he was second in the league in passing yards per game. I know he was up there in total touchdowns. He returns his entire offense. The offensive line gets better. The wide receivers have more chemistry. Antonio Brown has another year in the system. So I in my mind, it's like perfect storybook. If Tampa Bay has as good a season as a lot of people are predicting them to have, Tom Brady's going to be a big part of the reason. Tom Brady's going to be the reason why, because they don't have a Derrick Henry or a Dalvin Cook or Christian McCaffrey at running back. So Tampa Bay is going to go or not go on the arm of 44-year-old Tom Brady. What do you think about that bet in particular, Tom Brady to win NFL MVP, and just the odds for all these other guys?
Yeah, first and foremost, love that you pointed out this is a quarterback award, because I hear all the time, wait, are you interested in Christian McCaffrey at 60-1? No, I'm not. Stop talking about it, because it's a quarterback award. We can argue whether or not it should be, but one of the things that most people don't make a mistake in betting is it's not necessarily what you want to happen. It's what the league is dictating is going to happen. So I love the Tom Brady bet, to be honest. I don't have it. I've stared at it multiple times. This Bucs team is absolutely loaded. He's coming off a 40-touchdown season. And we saw them really accelerate in the second half of the year, right? That's when everyone really clicked. Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronk. O.J. Howard comes back as a second tight end. If he's got any juice left. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. Giovanni Bernard is an actual pass-catching back, which they missed last year. Fantastic offensive line. And they've got a chance to go 14-3. And those are the kind of quarterbacks you really want, right? They got to be on those upper echelon teams. Right. Aaron Rodgers threw 48 touchdowns last year. They went 13-3. He won the award. So that's why Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tom Brady are so interesting to me. Kyler Murray at 16-1, I don't have that much interest because I think the the fourth best team in the division.
Right.
And they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. Like I mentioned Justin Herbert before. I got him at 20-1. I think he played at that level last year. If they win the games and they can somehow beat the Chiefs in the division, I think he has a shot to win the MVP. I think Dak Prescott's offense is good enough where if they can actually carry the Cowboys, he's good enough to win MVP. Patrick Mahomes, I actually got in a parlay with Josh Gross on tennis. I have him currently at 28-1. So that's insane.
What? You have him at what?
Yeah, 28-1. So MGM, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this on the show, but they left a
they ain't watching. Say it. They ain't watching.
They left a 3-1 winner in tennis up after that winner already won. So what I did was I parlayed it with Patrick Mahomes, and so now I have 100 to win 2,800 on Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, I feel amazing about that. But that one's a little cheating. But again,
yeah, you pay attention. You pay attention. You get the answers to the test when you pay attention. Yeah.
But I love Brady at 14-1. That Bucs team legitimately has no holes. They have the best run defense in football. They've got a great secondary. They added more pass rush. It's just that they could legitimately lose 1 to 3 games, and Brady would be the front runner for MVP.
And here's my reason why running back, I'm not even looking at that. Here's the reason why. 2,027 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, 19 receptions, 114 yards. And I don't even think, and he didn't win it. Like, if you're a running back going for over 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, literally carrying your team to the playoffs, it's not happening. Like, the Panthers aren't going to win enough. They'd have to win the NFC, CMC go berserk, like, for that to even be a realistic possibility. So, and my bet is just, I think Tampa Bay is going to be a good team first and foremost. I think Tom Brady's going to have a good season, secondly. And if that happens, there's narrative around that, right? There's narrative around that because you could make it. I think he was a finalist, or he was up there in the MVP voting last year as well in his first season with no offseason with those guys. Like, they literally just dropped him in there. What he did was amazing. So I like that. Now, you talked about Dak Prescott because I think the more realistic outcome for Dak is comeback player of the year, which I guess everybody else does as well because he's the favorite for that award. Right now, plus 210, Joe Burrow at plus 700, Saquon at plus 700. You got CMC plus 800, Nick Bosa, Wentz, Kittle, Winston, and some other guys after that. Again, if the Cowboys are as good as we think, right? If the Cowboys are as good as offensively or as good as we think and potentially going to win the NFC East, and Dak goes berserk again with all those weapons, suffering the gruesome injury that he did, I think he's a shoo-in for this award. So in my opinion, do you think this is Dak's award to lose? And is there any dark horse, candidate for comeback player of the year that can actually push? Because to me, it's Dak or Burrow. It's Dak or Burrow, and I'm just betting on the player who's probably going to have the better numbers on the better team. But is there anybody that we're missing here with this comeback player of the year award?
No, it will be one of these two guys unless they both get hurt. Like, this is a quarterback award as well. People are going to say, well, I think the last 17 are quarterbacks. And one of them was Eric Berry, and he came back from cancer, right? There's definitely those stories of, Alex Smith was comeback player of the year last year, the second he made the team.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott had a gruesome injury on national TV. Joe Burrow had a gruesome injury. The best way to bet this is like 2 units on Dak Prescott and half a unit on Joe Burrow and call it a day. And then I think you've covered about 80% of outcomes. And then Joe Burrow will more than cover the Dak Prescott bet plus profit, and Dak Prescott potentially could return, $200 would be $420. I couldn't agree with you more. It will be one of these two. It will be one of these two quarterbacks. We look at Dak Prescott up there in MVP. We look at Dak Prescott up there for passing yards leader. We look at a guy who's, projected to throw 4,800 yards. You mentioned how good that offense is. Even last year when they were clicking, their offensive line wasn't healthy, right? Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, the Lyle Collins, like they're gonna crush people offensively. And I know they drafted Micah Parsons. Good Lord, does he look like a crazy person on Hard Knocks? But
he's good. Man. He's good.
He is good, but he's not going to fix the defense. He can't. There's only so much a linebacker can do because that defense is doo-doo.
This is let's we're not going there today.
But my point is Dak's numbers will continue to inflate because of how bad the defense is because they're not.
You see, I got a Dallas hat on, right? Don't.
I know that's your team, and I know the dumbest saying is they're going to have to outscore people to win games because, of course, you have to score more points than everybody else. But they're not winning games 17-13. Yeah. Like they're going to have to rely on Dak. So, if he's healthy, he's going to put up numbers, and those numbers will make him comeback player of the year.
All right, so. I'm seeing some people in the chat. I'm seeing Saquon, Bosa. How the hell does a lineman have better odds than Odell Beckham Jr.? Bosa. Any interest on Bosa? Saquon. Why not Saquon? Why not Saquon Barkley? Let's talk about that. Why not Saquon Barkley?
Because he doesn't play quarterback.
Okay.
Like it's that simple. Find me the last running back that won comeback player of the year. It's a quarterback award.
Yeah, man. But, I mean, if Saquon comes back off of the ACL, 1,200 rushing yards, 700 receiving yards, you don't even think that gets him comeback player of the year?
No, not if Dak's throwing for 4,700 yards and the Cowboys win 9 games.
Okay. I mean, I agree.
Listen,
I agree.
It's like it's the same thing as the MVP stuff. Like, you need him to be like Boobie Miles, right? From Friday Night Lights, where it's like he could run, he could catch, he could pass, and he'll paint your porch. Like it's literally that kind of thing for a running back to win this award.
So my question is, and maybe it's not the right way to approach betting. Maybe trying to find the outlier is not the way to go. So Devontae Smith, I would love to see what his odds were going into the 2020 college football season. Because I don't think he was on the Heisman radar of anybody. So I don't even know if I can ask you, how do you find those guys? I guess those just happen, right? Those outliers, maybe after week 3 of the college football season, when we saw he had damn near 1,000 receiving yards, maybe we should have been like, well, I'll put $10 on Devonta Smith, right? But is there any way to even predict those type of outlier situations where, again, much like the MVP, they haven't given the Heisman to a wide receiver since the 90s or the 80s, whenever Desmond Howard. So there was no way to predict that. So is there any way to sort of like, or are you just literally just guessing? You're just like, I'm going to put $10 on Nick Bosa to win it. And it's just literally just a guess.
Well, I think the biggest thing here is it goes back to the odds and what the implied probability is, right? Because Nick Bosa has got a 10% implied probability. You just mentioned Devontae Smith was on no one's radar. I don't know what the odds were, but I would bet money that it was over 100 to 1. It's probably closer to 200 to 1 to start the season. So you're talking about, that's a huge difference than Saquon Barkley betting on an outlier at plus 700. So if you're going to bet on outliers, you better get outlier odds. And that goes back to everything. It's one of those situations where you want to, you really want the odds to dictate whether or not there's value. Like, I think this could happen. Cool. Do you think it happens greater than 15% of the time? No, it probably happens 3% of the time. Why are you betting him at 7 to 1? So people just see 7 to 1 and they think long shot, but it's completely different. It's like right. If we're having the jersey competition, which I started 1-0 today, right? Because you decided not to show up, right? Like, the line is probably Eliot plus 900. That's the only way anyone would bet on me. If it's even money, I would bet on you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those situations where you have to understand what the odds are dictating. Okay.
So I'm just going to rattle off, because I want to get a couple of your favorite bets before we get you out of here. I'm just going to rattle off a couple of ones that I like. I got Chase Young at plus 1,200 to lead the league in sacks this season. I've got simultaneous bets on DK Metcalf and Calvin Ridley to lead the league in receiving. I've got DK at plus 1,400, Calvin Ridley at plus 900. Derrick Henry, I put an entire unit on him to lead the league in rushing. I didn't really like the price. It was plus 350, but I think he's going to lead the league in rushing again. If he's healthy and he plays 15 of the 17 games, I'm going to put my money on Derrick Henry to lead the league in rushing. And then one long shot, 33 to 1. I got Devonta Smith at Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know it's a quarterback award. If Justin Jefferson broke Randy Moss's record and didn't get it, the chances of Devonta Smith winning that award, I know, but just conviction, and I felt like I just needed to do it as a long shot. He was a long shot to win the Heisman, a long shot to go top 10. Damn it, I'm just maybe the third time's a charm, and I can get a piece of the Devonta Smith magic. But of those, Chase Young lead the league in sacks. I wanted Myles Garrett, but the pricing wasn't good for Myles Garrett. DK, Calvin Ridley, Derrick Henry. Which one of those do you like the most?
First and foremost, I know you're going to cash your over on Devonta Smith over 775 receiving yards too. So I have no problem giving a little back and just doing it for the brand. Derrick Henry, I'm on as well. Like, it's literally he's built different. He runs different. It's just, it should probably be closer to plus 100 than plus 350. I hope you lose both Ridley and DK Metcalf, and I'll tell you that if I win one of my bets, I will personally pay your stuff. I got in terms of a couple bad lines. I got Travis Kelce at 100-1. I got DJ Moore at 200-1, and I have AJ Brown at 200-1. So I went like $45,000 if DJ Moore leads the league in receiving yards. So those are the two that I see your face. I'm really hoping. I got Darren Waller at 100-1 too, and he led the league in the receiving yards the second half of the year. Kelce was literally leading until he sat the last game of the year. So again, grinding those markets, finding absurd lines. I think Calvin Ridley is probably the favorite right now, so you have a good number on him at plus 900. And I do think people talk a little bit too much about his splits without Julio. You can't say Kyle Pitts is a transcendent prospect and going to crush, and then mention Calvin Ridley without Julio and not understand that they're that's part of the replacement plan. Chase Young's really, really interesting because his pressure rate doesn't necessarily dictate that he's going to get more sacks, but we know that talent is absurd, and he got better as the year went on. Yeah. And I think Washington's going to compete for the best defense in football.
Yeah.
So, and they added a second corner in William Jackson, which I think will really allow more time for Chase Young to get home. And if he takes that next step, he could absolutely cash that at plus 1,200.
So, and here's my rationale for Chase Young and just how my mind went. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones. He gets those guys 6 times. Jalen Hurts, scrambling quarterback. He may just fall into a couple of sacks, right? Like just Jalen Hurts. Giants offensive line, terrible. Daniel Jones holds the ball. There you go. Dak Prescott, he's got a tendency to take some sacks as well. So I'm like, all right, I know at least 6 games Chase Young's going to have a good opportunity to get after the quarterback. At least those 6 games. And I can see him having multi-sack games versus Philly, multi-sack games versus the Giants. And just that second-year leap, like you see a big leap from players like year 1 to year 2, especially like on the defensive line and the secondary. Like you see a major jump from the rookie season to year 2. Chase Young is built a little bit different. So those were some of the ones that I kind of like. But just give the people some of your favorite bets, and I know the pricing that you got on some of the. I mean, Kelce 200-1. Are you kidding? Like, wasn't he second in the league in receiving last year?
Yeah, Kelce was 100-1. AJ Brown is 200-1. Kelce's now like plus 10-1, and AJ Brown's 14-1. That's DJ Moore 200-1. He's 16-1. So, a few absurd ones, but. Here's a long shot one that I think is mispriced right now, and it's Sony Michel to lead the league in touchdowns at it's 100-1. Like, I understand.
That sounds gross as hell. I'm just gonna tell you that sounds dirty.
Can I explain why, real quick?
Please, you must.
So, under Sean McVay, the Rams are averaging they average 17.9 touchdowns per year to the running back. Last year, they had 19 rushing touchdowns. They are one of the most spread out teams inside the 5-yard line. Sony Michel should get that. And, it's just one of those things where we're talking about a 1% probability. I think there's a chance he actually becomes the workhorse back for Los Angeles and scores double-digit touchdowns and has an opportunity. So that's my complete long shot. Probably loses. I think it should be closer to 40-1 than 100-1. I got it at 200-1, so it already cut in half. A bet that's still available now that I think is really good value is, and this one's kind of boring, but Logan Thomas over 4.5 touchdowns. So he scored 6 last year. He led the team in red zone targets. He led the team in end zone targets. They get much improved quarterback play, and they get an extra game this year. So I think he's an awesome bet to go over 4.5 touchdowns. One of the other ones that I had written up that you had already talked about was Dak Prescott comeback player of the year. Like, I think that's one of the absolute best bets in all of football. I like Chris Carson over 900 yards. That's available at PointsBet. He's 1,000 everywhere else. So now we're talking about a depleted number. His whole thing is, can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, he'll sail over this number. I kind of like taking those opportunities. Another one, and Ray, I think this is going to speak to your people. It's Destination Debbie, right? We're talking about Dynasty. Terrace Marshall is a guy that if you logged on Twitter, you would think it's not Byron Edwards. That's Brian Edwards. That's getting compared to Devontae Adams and T.O. and Randy Moss. It's that Terrace Marshall is the greatest receiver in the history of football, right?
He is, yeah.
His receiving prop is 550. That's too low. It's only on DraftKings. But you're talking about a guy, he's going to be the third option in the offense. People are going to say, well, Christian McCaffrey's coming back. You know, it's Sam Darnold back there. You're looking at 3,800 passing yards. I think he'll go over that number. I think he's going to start in the slot and kick outside. They don't really have a tight end to compete with targets. And I think that Moore and Anderson will take up enough that 550 is just such a low number. He's got to average like 33 receiving yards a game. He's going to have some big plays. I really like Terrace Marshall over 550 yards this year.
What about Rondale Moore at 545?
Yes. I got him at 500. It's one of the first bets I made. It's just like you saw it and you were just like, are they aware that he's probably going to be second on the team in targets? Because I feel like they're not. Like, his whole thing is healthy too, right? And you know that Kyler Murray was one of the, I think they threw the 8th most screens in the NFL last year, and that was without a talent like Rondale Moore. And I don't think people give him enough credit for how he can get vertical out of the slot. And he's never going to be doubled. He's never going to be the focus of the offense with DeAndre Hopkins there. So they're going to throw a lot. Their horizontal rate really works to Rondale Moore. So I love that bet. I think he's going to get 700 or 800 yards this year. So I think he easily clears that.
All right, so here's the most important part of the show, because a lot of people that listen, they want to make these bets. And I know that people are going to go back, listen to some of the prices that you're talking about, and try to find them. So tell everybody where they can easily look this stuff up, where they can find it, where they can do their own price checking, where they can follow your content, Eliot, because, listen, we got some heavy hitters at FTN, man. We got some heavy hitters on the FTN fantasy side, daily, the bet side. We've got some heavy hitters that are winning people a lot of money. So can you tell everybody, just give us the overview of where to find this stuff, where to follow your work, and how to get this money before the season starts, man?
Yeah, absolutely. FTNbets.com has all my betting content. You can, and then I post in the FTN Bets bet tracker. I literally post every single bet I do. You get an alert if you follow us on FTN alerts. Every time any person from FTN inputs a bet, I write out my reasoning so you can understand what it is. I let you know what book it's at. And then in terms of odds shopping, we've got awesome tools. They're all free on FTN Bets. I talked about the implied probability calculator where you can type in what your odds are and you can understand what the implied probability is. We've got over-unders, totals, money lines, all the price comparisons. If you do want to do parlays, we got a parlay calculator where you can type in, I want to do Cowboys plus 7.5 and Dolphins plus 3, and we'll let you know which book you'll actually get the best payout on. We also have a prop shop, which is perfect for this kind of stuff. You literally, it's like Google. Go to ftn.com/prop-shop, and I type in any player's name, any team, and I can see all the available bets on them across all the different sports books. So I can say, Eliot said Terrace Marshall. Oh, okay, it's still available. Eliot said Gus Edwards. Okay, well, these are the books that are offering Gus Edwards. Ray likes the Bucks. All right, let me type in the Bucks and see what value they can get. An example is everyone priced the Bucks at -250 to win the division. I got them at -150 at MGM because I was looking at the Buccaneers in the prop shop. So a lot of great tools, a lot of free tools at FTNbets.com.
Dude, this is what we needed, man. This is what we needed. So, Jordan, do you have any contribution to this show? You have done absolutely nothing today.
I want to just let you guys go because you were having such a good time. Eliot was just hammering all the bets. But Eliot, one thing that you didn't really say, but you talked about a lot, is the book shopping, right? Understanding that if you have access to all these books, you're going to find better lines when you do shop across different books to get the best price. You go to the prop shop to do that, find out where to place your bets, all that stuff. But honestly, man, I just enjoyed the information. I was here. I made the show sheet and just kind of let you guys roll, which was awesome. Made my job real easy. So I appreciate you coming on, Eliot. It was awesome to hear you talk about all this stuff.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, man. This was
Go
a
ahead,
blast
Eliot.
coming on.
I'm just about to talk shit about Jordan. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Listen, I'll talk shit about Jordan with you right afterwards too. But I just want to say, like, the price shopping thing is probably the biggest mistake people have. They're just like, I signed up for DraftKings. I don't want to join another sports book. Why?
Yeah.
Like, if you were buying a T-shirt and it was $10 cheaper at another shop, you wouldn't do that. Like, what are we doing here?
Clearly it wrong, but we're going to do it better by following you, by checking out all the tools that we have to offer. Eliot, it was great having you on, man. We appreciate it. Everybody that dropped by today in the chat, the comments, thank you. I know this was sort of like an educational show. We try to put some fun spin on it, but honestly, like, we want to entertain, but we want you to go out there and win some money. Like, that's what we want you to do. We want you to win your fantasy league, your dynasty leagues, and we want you to crush the books. We want you to walk away with some good pricing, to have good probabilities, because that's what we're trying to do. Find these high probability setups, high probability situations, and cash out. That's what we want you to do. So make sure you're tapped in. Make sure you're subbed, tapped in, following, subscribed. All of that good stuff, we got you covered. Make sure you check out all the dope content on FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, FTN Bets, FTN this, FTN that, Bets Media, Bet. Follow it all. We got you covered. We'll be back tomorrow. We got Ohio State playing on Thursday. Which is tomorrow? Ohio State playing tomorrow. College football kicking off this weekend. And any last-minute NFL news that's out there. But we appreciate y'all tapped in. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.